Hey, I'm glad you're here. Today we are in Philippians 2, verses 19 through 24. And it says, "But I trust in the Lord Jesus to send Timothy shortly unto you, that I also may be of good comfort that when I know your state. For I have no man like-minded who will naturally care for your state. For all seek their own, not the things which are Jesus Christ. But you know the proof of him, that as a son with a father, he hath served me in the gospel. Him therefore I hope to send presently, as soon as I shall see how it will go with me. But I trust in the Lord that I also myself shall come shortly." So Paul is writing to the church, and telling them how much Timothy has meant to him in the ministry. Timothy's been very instrumental. He's come alongside Paul, and he's learning and he's growing. And he talks about Timothy being so helpful to him. And he exemplifies Christ. He's learned from Paul that being Christ-like and Christ-minded, like we've talked about, and he's learned that, and has that humility and that selflessness that he wants to serve, and he wants to be that humble servant. And Timothy was young. He was a young man, and in 1 Timothy, Paul refers to Timothy as my young son in the faith. And some of the notes that I read, it said that he was maybe around 30, and so he was young. And I think at that time that was more of a prominent position that he had in the ministry. And so many may not have thought that he's had enough experiences or had enough time to learn all that he needs to learn to be able to do the ministry. And in 1 Timothy 4:12, it said, "Let no man despise thy youth, but be thou an example of the believers in word and conversation, in charity, in spirit, in faith, in purity." So he's encouraged Timothy that no matter how young he is, he can still share the faith, and not to be ashamed because he's younger. I think sometimes we all may make excuses about sharing our faith or living out our faith, like we've talked about, but maybe a new Christian may not be all that comfortable with sharing their faith, talking about Christ. Maybe they feel like they haven't experienced enough or known enough. But even a new Christian can share what happened to them. They can share their experience that they had and what God has done in their life. That's all it is. And even as we grow older and we have been in our Bible, or maybe sometimes we get in a spiritual slump that it's hard for us to share. It's hard for us to live out that faith when we're having a hard time. And these scriptures tell us that it doesn't matter how young you are, it doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter how mature in your faith that you are, or if you're just beginning your journey, you can still share your faith. You can still share Jesus, no matter what stage of life or what stage of your Christian journey that you're in. And I think Satan likes to use those things because we get in our own heads and think of our own weaknesses, and Satan likes to use those because he doesn't want you to tell what Christ has done for you. And so sometimes we do make those excuses. And here Paul is telling him, don't be ashamed of your youth, that you've got a lot to share, you've got a lot to give, there's a lot of serving to do, there's a lot of ministering to do. We can all learn from Paul and Timothy, because here Paul he's older in his faith, and he's been on this spiritual journey, and now he's bringing Timothy alongside him and kind of coaching him and teaching him. And so Timothy is seeing all these things, so he has experienced what it's like to be in the ministry, and he knows what Christ has done for him. So that's something he can share. Just because he's young doesn't mean he's not qualified. And just because we're young, or just because we're in a spiritual slump, or we're not as far in our journey as that we would like to be, that still doesn't mean that we're unqualified to share Jesus, to be in ministry, to serve, to be the humble servant. None of that means that you're unqualified at all. And I know, even in me doing this, a lot of times I feel like, I'm very unqualified for this. There's a lot of times I think, what am I doing? That, and I do feel at times, I don't have it all together. And I've told y'all before, I don't have it all together all the time. And, well, not a lot at all. It seems like, anyway. So there are times that I have felt like, I'm unqualified. Maybe someone else needs to be doing this. But, God has led me to do this and to share the things that He's done in my life, the things that He's taught me. So, and the thing is, I sit here and, I talk to you guys and I share with you the things that I've learned and the things that I've studied. And then when I start talking to you guys, things come out of my mouth that I thought, where did that come from? Because that's not something I had even thought to share with you guys. And so I know that God is leading and God is teaching. He's teaching me and He's teaching you, that we just have to rely on Him. We just have to rely on Him to help us to serve and to do the things that He's asked us to do. So I hope that encourages you, because I don't want you to ever feel that you're unqualified or that you're not where you need to be to share the gospel, to share in ministry, to share in serving. None of us are unqualified, because what that saying, He qualifies the called. So He's going to help us do, what He wants us to do. So I pray that you take that and you think about that and know that He's got you. I've told y'all that before. He's got you. And whatever it is you feel that you're led to do, then do it. He's going to guide you through all of it. So I hope you guys have a great week, and I will see you next time. Thanks.